You told yourself you were just browsing. You didn't need anything. You were only going to look. And then somehow, 45 minutes later, you're staring at a confirmation screen for something you didn't plan to buy. Sound familiar? The strange part is that this wasn't weakness. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't even a failure of willpower. Your brain was running a program so old, so deeply wired into your biology, that a checkout button was never really the problem. Here's the real reason you can't stop spending money. And it has almost nothing to do with money. Your brain doesn't think in dollars. It never did. It thinks in survival signals. Every time you see something new, something shiny, something that promises to solve a problem or raise your status or fill a gap, a tiny structure deep inside your brain called the nucleus accumbens lights up. Dopamine floods the circuit, and for one brief moment, your nervous system whispers. This could be the thing that keeps you alive, safe, ahead. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent decades studying this system and found something that changed everything. Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of wanting. The wanting comes first. The satisfaction, if it ever comes much later, and it's almost always smaller than the wanting promised. This is the engine underneath your spending, not greed, wanting. Your ancestors lived in a world of scarcity. Resources were unpredictable. Food could vanish. Seasons changed without warning. Shelter could be destroyed. In that world, the brain that grabbed resources when they were available was the brain that survived. The one that hesitated, that waited, that said, "I'll come back for it later," often didn't make it. So your brain evolved a bias. Acquire now, evaluate later. And for 200,000 years, that bias kept your lineage alive. Today, that same bias sends you clicking add to cart on things you don't need, in a world where the stores never close and the ads never stop. You didn't break. You're running ancient code in a modern world. There's a specific moment when your brain locks in on a purchase, and once it happens, the rest of your rational mind starts working for the purchase, not against it. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely documented this in his research on what he called arbitrary coherence. Once you've imagined owning something, your brain starts reframing its value upward. The price seems more reasonable. The reasons to buy multiply. The reasons not to buy shrink quietly into the background. This isn't rationality, this is confabulation. Your emotional system decided first. Your logical system followed behind, building the case. You experience this as making a thoughtful decision. But the decision was already made in the wanting. Now layer in something called loss aversion. In the 1970s, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky ran a series of experiments that would eventually reshape economics. They found that losing something feels roughly twice as painful as gaining the equivalent thing feels good. Think about what this means for spending. When a sale ends in 24 hours, you're not just attracted to the discount, you're running from the loss. When something is almost sold out, you're not calculating need. You're calculating what you're about to lose if you don't act. Every limited time offer, every countdown timer, every low stock warning is a direct exploit of this ancient asymmetry between gain and loss. The marketers didn't invent your behavior, they reverse engineered it, and they are very, very good at it. Here is where your environment starts doing the work for them. Every physical and digital retail space you enter has been engineered from the ground up to reduce friction between you and a purchase. Psychologist Robert Cialdini spent years studying the architecture of persuasion and found that small environmental cues, things you barely notice, dramatically alter behavior. The way a store smells, the tempo of the music, the weight of a menu card, the ease of a single click. These signals don't argue with your prefrontal cortex. They bypass it entirely and speak directly to your older, faster, more impulsive systems, the ones that were built for survival, not for navigating an e-commerce homepage. This is not manipulation in the dark. It's manipulation in the open. You just weren't taught to see it. Now add the social layer. Humans are deeply, fundamentally tribal creatures. For most of human history, your survival depended not just on having resources, but on having visible resources. Status within a group determined who got food in a shortage, who got protection, who reproduced, who lived. So your brain developed a constant low-level anxiety about where you stood relative to the people around you. Psychologist Robert Frank at Cornell University calls this expenditure cascade. When the people just above you in perceived status upgrade their lifestyle, your baseline shifts. Your reference point moves. What felt like enough yesterday starts to feel inadequate today. You aren't keeping up with the Joneses out of vanity. You're keeping up with the Joneses because somewhere inside your ancient wiring, falling behind still feels like danger. Comparison is not a character flaw. It's a survival reflex that no longer knows where to aim. And here's the twist that very few people talk about. The very moment you complete a purchase, your brain begins to discount it. Not weeks later, not after the package arrives, almost immediately. The wanting was always more intense than the having. Dopamine peaks in anticipation, not in possession. So the sweater arrives, and within 48 hours, it's just another sweater. The phone feels ordinary within a week. The furniture blends into the room within a month, and the wanting has already moved on. It has found a new target, a newer version, a different category, a problem that still feels unsolved. This is the hedonic treadmill, a term coined by psychologist Philip Brickman, and it is running constantly underneath every purchase you have ever made and every purchase you will ever make. You are not bad at being satisfied. You are exactly as your brain was designed to be. Understanding this changes something, not immediately, not magically, but knowing that the want is louder than the having means you can start to pause between signal and action. You can ask, am I buying this because I thought about it, or because something triggered a wanting signal, and my brain started building the case? You can introduce friction intentionally. The 24-hour rule, the wish list that sits for a week, the pause before the checkout. These aren't tricks for willpower. They are workarounds for hardware that was never designed for the world you're living in. Your spending isn't a moral failing. It's a mismatch between a brain shaped by scarcity and a world built to feed on it. The next time you feel that pull, that sudden and specific wanting, that quiet certainty that this thing will fill something, notice it. Not to shame it, not to fight it, just to see it for what it is. An ancient signal, a survival reflex, a brain doing exactly what it was built to do in a world it was never built for. You were just browsing, and now you know exactly why you weren't.